Hi, I'm Rachel, and this is Designed Resilience, the corner of the internet where we talk about building daily habits and practices to help you have the resilience you need when things are amazing, because that takes stamina, or when things are hard, because you need something to fall back on to support you through those times. Today, I want to talk about the power of concepts that I just got out of Mel Robbins' book, The Let Them Theory, that have changed my paradigm around self concept and the power and influence that I have in situations that I'm in. So I read a lot. I set a goal every year for the number of books I read. For 2025, the goal was 60 books. I have read 55 and I am currently reading two. I usually have a business book going or work related, and then I usually have something fun. So right now I'm reading an Irish mystery and a collections of essays from a great investor. So those are the two books I have going on now. But when I read Let Them, or the Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins, it was, I kind of freaked out about how powerful it was for me and how many messages I took away from it. And I I post all the books I read on LinkedIn, and I posted and I asked people, like, have you read this? What did you think? What made you excited about it? Because I really wanted to talk about how impactful it was for me. And people that I have in my network, and people who are like me and people who are not like me. And the conversation was great. And so I thought, well, I'll bring that to YouTube and to Apple Podcasts. And so the core concepts of the book start with, obviously, the title, Let Them. And so that throughout the book becomes a mantra that you can use, or that Mel described using, when she was in situations or encounters where she did not like what was going on. She didn't like a choice that someone made. She didn't like a decision that was going to affect her in a way that she didn't want to. She'd asked a question and she got an answer she didn't want. And so the idea of Let Them was a mantra and a trigger for her to go to the second part of this concept, which I thought was probably one of the most powerful things, is let me. So let them is not a giving up. Let them is not a detachment. It's a decision to change your focus, to go from focusing on this person who is being difficult or not doing what you want them to do, or not. In my household growing up, we would say it ain't fitting. It ain't fitting for them to be acting that way or doing that thing or making that choice. And so when that happens and you can feel it in your body and you get those reactions, the thing to tell yourself so that you can switch your focus into something you actually can control, because said it a million times, not me personally, but just have heard it. We can't control anyone else. We're the only ones we can control. So rather than spinning in that negative emotion, we can empower ourselves by saying, let them, and then let me. And that opened a whole world for me, because the let them was easy enough. I can say, well, I know who they are. I know the kinds of decisions they make, or they're not necessarily considering my experience or what's going to happen to me because of this choice or things like that. So I can let them have their space, and I can decide what I'm going to do with the let me part of the statement. And what that becomes, or most recently, I've had an experience at work specifically where I was in the middle of a situation. I was part of a conversation that was happening, and I was kind of the in-between person. I was helping someone understand a decision that had been made by another group of people who were authority in this dynamic. And I didn't love the way it was being handled, and I was super sensitive to it because I was in the middle. But when I began to feel that tension of, I wish this was going a different way, I said, let them, and then let me. And I decided what I wanted to do was I didn't want to feel the tension. I didn't want to feel angsty, and I didn't want to be in judgment, because those feelings don't feel good in my body, and they stress me out and they make me less happy, and I don't like it. So the let me that I decided to do was take a deep breath, step back, and go back to my core values, which are kindness, clarity, and integrity. And as long as I didn't try to accelerate the decision or conversation, as long as I didn't try to force the outcome in a situation where I really had no control, I was not the decision maker, I was simply the person passing the message along. I said, well, whatever it becomes, I can be kind, I can be clear and specific, and I can stay true to my integrity. I'm not trying to spin anything in any way. And when I did that, the situation became so much lighter feeling, so much more manageable for me. I was not anxiously spinning in my mind about what are they going to say and what am I going to have to say and how is this person going to feel. No, let them have their choices, decisions, words, feelings. Let them. Let me take a step back, take a deep breath, and stay true to my core values. And that exercise made the situation come out fine, at least for me. I was able to deliver the message. The person took the message perfectly calmly and wonderfully, and that was fine. It was all, and I didn't waste extra energy spinning and worrying in the interim, because I decided to let everybody else, let them do their thing, and I'm going to do mine. And what this helps to establish as you begin that process of, I don't like what's happening, let them, let me refocus on me, I begin to clearly see the difference between boundaries and control. So, boundaries are for me. Boundaries set the guardrails for how I'm willing to be treated, how I'm willing to work or interact or converse. Whereas control is about the other person and trying to compel the other person to act in a certain way, work in a certain way, converse in a certain way. And that is completely ineffective. We either um, have that person, play along for a little while, but it doesn't last, or they push us away because they don't want to be controlled. Nobody likes to be controlled. So as I focus on what I want to do and what I want to feel and how I want to interact, I am setting boundaries about how I will engage, not trying to control the other person, which a lot of times only leads to more frustration on my part and broken relationships, personally and professionally. So I loved that. And I loved seeing it actually work in my life. And from a sense of self perspective, it let me know very clearly that I have a lot more ability to process and manage my own emotions about things, regardless of the situation, regardless of how I think it's being handled, regardless of how I would do differently if I was in someone else's seat. That's fine. I can have those perspectives and I can think those things, but it doesn't have to hijack my emotions. It doesn't have to ruin my day. I can use my little mantra to work through my process and realize that I can maintain a certain level of emotional stability, or when my emotions become unstable, I can decide where I want to be and work to move that, whether that's mindfulness practices, breathing, taking a walk, watching a puppy video, whatever it takes to re-regulate myself. That I have that power. I don't have to be at the emotional whim of a frantic mind, that I can be calm and move myself into a more self-focused but not selfish, right? I'm just managing my part of any situation, so that I can be free more of the time. My emotions aren't hijacked by situations or conversations or things that I'm involved with. So I loved the way that the book spelled out situational. The author has a very nice way of telling stories that are super relatable. And she applied these concepts to professional environments, personal, like parent-child relationships, friend relationships. All of those can become complicated when we have expectations of other people and they don't meet them. And so this is a process that is universally applicable, in my opinion, and has helped me significantly not allow myself to be spun up into other people's emotional states or manipulations or anything like that. I allow them to be themselves, and I let me be me. And it has been just so impactful as I work on building my daily habit of a positive self-concept and believing that I can navigate any situation because I now have this tool that helps me regulate my emotions and make choices that are more aligned with who I want to be and how I want to feel. So if you're a reader, awesome, check out the book. If you're not, try the audio. Mel Robbins also has a podcast, so you can pick up lots of goodies there. And so I just wanted to share with you how powerful this particular book was and the new rhythm I have for helping manage my emotions as I interact with other people, which I do every day. So I hope you found this helpful, and I'll see you next week.